and take your time. Things may not come easy. You may go days or weeks or months without taking a single good photograph. But take a look at everything around you. Look at each branch, each blade of grass. Look at how the light comes shining through the leaves above you. You may see silhouettes. And most importantly, get to know arthropod behavior. You'll see how certain bugs will find perches, how close you can approach some of them. But then again, these are wild animals, and there's no way to predict exactly how they're going to behave. Each subject can be different. But thankfully, with digital photography, there's no penalty or restraint by film cost, so there's no excuse not to take hundreds and hundreds of photographs, and eventually you'll get that one good shot. My current camera consists of a flash and a homemade flash diffuser, a set of extension tubes, and a reverse prime lens at 28mm, and the camera body, which is a Pentax K200D. Before long, you'll realize how incredibly skittish some of these little bugs can be. For example, this little 5mm long robber fly might be moving in for focus and pop, completely disappear, will vanish. But if you stick with it long enough, you take enough images, you can eventually get something usable out of them. Here's another image of almost just the compound eyes, and that's a pretty high magnification. Anyone is capable of doing this. You don't need the greatest lens, you don't need the newest camera out there. Equipment doesn't matter, and neither does talent to some extent. It's about perseverance, persistence, and most of all, the sheer volume of shots taken. I've said it before, but the more shots you take, the better images you'll have to choose from in the end. And some bugs are just fairly cooperative. Horseflies sometimes don't mind you getting a little bit close to them or bugging them too much. For example, this male Tabanus lineola horsefly, the striped horsefly, you can see why it's called that. This is just the 28mm lens reversed here. Here's the 28mm on a set of extension tubes, and this image is focus stacked from about 10 images of a live horsefly. You can see all the individual compound lenses. Here's a female Tabanus lineola horsefly. Female horseflies are distinguished from males from their scissor-like biting mouth parts, and their compound eyes are separated. And their compound eyes can be highly iridescent and deeply saturated with beautiful bands of alternating colors, greens and reds and purples and all those individual lenses. It's pretty amazing. I'll move away from flies for a little bit. Here's a Tudolina similis jumping spider from the family Salticidae, and he's only about 4 or 5 millimeters in body length. And pretty active little guys. They signal their arms around. They might be little ant mimics, but I chose a low angle to get the blue of the sky in the background, and he found a red mite and made for a nice photograph. Here's a young Phidippus jumping spider, and they'll find little things to eat, and once they reach adulthood, that's when the real wild hairs and ornamental tufts on the legs and cephalothorax are really apparent. And jumping spiders are pretty curious little guys. They'll investigate things, and they love jumping on the camera lens, looking at the reflection. Here's an adult male Phidippus putnami jumping spider, and in terms of coloration and ornamentation, it's beautiful. The eyes of jumping spiders are they have internal retinas, so when you get down low and look in their eyes, washes of red will sometimes kind of float behind their lenses. Here's an adult female Phidippus mysticeus jumping spider with pretty amazing tufts of hair on the cephalothorax. Here's an adult male Phidippus mysticeus jumping spider with interesting coloration and markings. Here's a little Habernatus coacatus male jumping spider hanging out some red leaves, showing off his red fangs. That's the abdomen of a Phidippus apachianus jumping spider, and those guys are velvet ant mimics. And here's a female Phidippus putnami jumping spider, and zooming in on her anterior median eyes, which are quite clean and highly reflective. You can see my fingers pulling away a leaf. This is a Paraphidippus aurantius jumping spider with pretty massive chelicerant fangs. A leafhopper, a pink color variation. We usually see deep blue on the species. That's zooming out from the compound eye of a pretty decent-sized damselfly. And you see in the center of the head there are the simple eyes, which are different than compound eyes. The mouth parts of dragonflies can kind of make it seem as though they're smiling sometimes. Here is another species of Tabanus horsefly. It's a female, and I don't know which species it is. They all look the same to me. They're difficult to distinguish one from another. That is the pseudopupil beneath the compound eyes of a Stagmomantis carolinus mantis, and pretty alien looking. That's a Triorla interrupta robber fly feeding on a dragonfly, and those are some pretty large insects. This is a Vespula squamosa, also known as the southern yellowjacket queen, or wasp. So in conclusion to all this, macrophotography is time-consuming and difficult and physically exhausting, but it's not just for a select group of people. It can be relatively inexpensive. You don't need that great of equipment, and it just takes patience and time. All of my photographs are of live, healthy, unposed arthropods. And if I can, I usually photograph them where I found them, or if I don't, I replace them where I did find them originally. If you'd like to see more photography, look at some of my artwork, or hear some bad music, go to thomasshahan.com, or just to see bug photos, go to flickr.com/opoturzer. Thanks.